I think a big part of my knowledge comes from that world as well as contractors. As things tend to slow down a bit, prices come down. Now, historically, you never see escalation end up in the negative. It will go down, but it will not go in the negative. Only always be interested in learning. In this industry, I don't care how many years you have or what you've been doing throughout your career, always keep the mindset you can learn from someone else in the industry. I say that because, in my mind, I've had so many conversations with.
This is Maestro Minute, the show that discusses all things real estate, sharing interviews with the most successful people in the industry. Hear from their perspective and what they are doing to achieve success. Get exclusive tips on how you can also succeed in real estate. Maestro Minute is brought to you by Maestro Development. Here's your host, Nareg Muradian.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Maestro Minute. I'm your host, Nareg Muradian, and I'm super excited today. We have a special guest, a good friend of mine I've known for a long time, Steven Yetemian. Welcome to Maestro Minute, buddy.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Steven, good to have you.
Thank you.
I mean, today we're in downtown LA. You can see all these big buildings.
Yep.
There's been a huge conversion in downtown LA in the last 10 plus years.
Yeah.
It started with Staples Center, and there's been a lot of more residential development. There's a lot of empty office space. Where do you see construction heading? Like what's coming up? There's been issues with supply chain.
Yep.
Costs have gone up, inflation has gone
Yep.
up. Where do you see the future of construction financially? How do you see that playing out?
With construction, it's tricky. Financially, it's one of those industries that it typically, historically, has been, escalation has ranged from 3 to 4%. But as of lately, between the time during COVID, a big part of what happened was, it wasn't that typical 3-4, especially in certain industries. I can tell you right now, I'm sure everybody that was in the industry that knew this is, lumber went up so high, and anybody can know that when you're out at Home Depot and you're buying something from there at that time. Things skyrocketed, whatever was made of wood. I think with the way the industry moves, I think everyone's a bit cautious now, especially about what they're specifying for material. And I've noticed that among projects. But, the industry...
Have you seen material costs kind of stabilize?
Yes, and that's a big part of it is attributed by the amount of work and amount of purchasing of material. When I do talk to subcontractors, and I still do, I think a big part of my knowledge comes from that world as well as contractors. They mention that certain things do move, but historically, I think we're seeing a stable set of construction costs. But again, it's all predicated on inflation. As inflation moves, escalation moves. So you're kind of in this tricky period that, the hope is as things tend to slow down a bit, prices come down. Now, historically, you never see escalation end up in the negative. It will go down, but it will not go in the negative. The only time we've ever seen it is the Great Recession, which was, 2009, 2008, 10. And that's because there was absolutely no work, right? So I think, the dynamic of contractors is that they're much more diversified, right? You're working on a project, and then once that market sector starts to slow down, you shift. And a lot of contractors have gotten smart to this. I think they've learned their lesson from back when the Great Recession happened is you can't stick to one market sector. If you stay to one market sector, you're going to be struggling.
How do you see the future of estimating with AI and all that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about that a little bit.
So estimating is getting way more efficient, which is great. And I actually met with a company. They presented a really great tool that they're building. Obviously, AI is not 100% there yet with it, but tools to do takeoffs where you're submitting drawings, and the art of artificial intelligence is going in and actually mapping your drawings and providing the quantities for your project, which I think is great, because as estimators, you don't want to spend your career clicking or highlighting. A big part of my career in the beginning was that, which I think most people should, but with the tools that they're coming out with that are trying to make people more efficient at the end of the day, which I think is awesome.
When do you think that's going to be like the mainstream estimating like tool to start doing the whole takeoffs by AI? How long do you think before that?
I think it's coming. Like I said, I met with a company already that actually has the tool ready. They did it for landscaping, that scope, which is pretty simple to do because you do, their scope is usually on a per square foot and quantity on the count. But I can't see that not coming out in the next 2 years max.
So pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if there's one thing like the viewers are watching now, some advice you'd give them on what you've learned, since the early 2000s,
Yep.
a couple decades in construction.
Yep.
What advice would you give people who want to get into construction or are in construction and are trying to get ahead or learn and get better? What would you recommend based on your experience?
Yeah. One thing that I think has always been stagnant for me is always be interested in learning. In this industry, I don't care how many years you have or what you've been doing throughout your career. Always keep the mindset you can learn from someone else in the industry. I say that because, in my mind, I've had so many conversations with subcontractors, with contractors, with developers, with architects, with engineers, with construction managers. All these individuals that I've spoken to have provided me with such knowledge. Don't let that ego get you. Doesn't matter how many years. To me, I don't even care. That's the past. To me, that's just what I've built. But it shouldn't matter when I'm actually trying to learn because that's knowledge. That's beautiful. You can grow from that knowledge. And if in this industry, one thing I love about it is everybody's willing to teach you. There are some egos out there, but at the end of the day, a lot of them are interested in teaching you. And stay humble. Be that individual that will sit there and listen. You don't have to be the guy that says, whoa, I have 30 years or 40 years of experience. I don't need to listen to you. No, because at the end of the day, you may not have experienced what, that other individual has done. And for me, I keep that mindset, even to this day. I went and got my master's when I was younger. I went after my estimating certification. And until this day, I still keep at it because that knowledge is always going to stay with me. That's my investment. So, as individuals want to keep going, keep learning, keep going after it, and stay humble and learn as much as you can.
Yeah. Well, this has been a great interview, Steven.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate your time. This is great information.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I hope you guys enjoyed our interview. Again, put your comments down below and let us know if you have any questions. And we'll be filming more of these here shortly with more awesome guests similar to Steven with different types of backgrounds. So thanks again for joining Maestro Minute. I'm your host, Narek Meridian. We'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for tuning in to the Maestro Minute podcast. Make sure to rate this podcast if you found it helpful, share it with a friend that could use it, and follow us on all major podcast platforms. The Maestro Minute, powered by Maestro Development.